Just give me 14 minutes and I'll destroy your distraction for good. If you're running a business, here's what your typical day probably looks like. You wake up with big plans to finish that proposal or work on strategy or build this giant lead generation asset. But then reality hits with Slack notifications, urgent emails, and quick calls that turn into hours. By lunch, you've been busy for 6 hours, but you've accomplished nothing that actually moves your business forward. You're not lazy or incompetent. You're just caught in the distraction economy that's designed to steal your most valuable asset while your competitors execute with surgical precision. So in the next 14 minutes or so, I'll give you a simple protocol that gives you back 10 plus focused hours every week. Because the difference between successful founders and everyone else isn't talent or luck. It's the ability to focus when it matters. If we haven't met, my name is Dr. Yannick. I'm a behavioral scientist turned high-performance coach, and I run a coaching and consulting firm called Impactor. I help business owners achieve by lunch what most do all day without burning out, so they still have time and energy for what matters after work. Look, distraction isn't just annoying, it's expensive. Every time you switch from writing that proposal to checking Slack to answering a text, you're not just losing those few seconds, you're actually losing 23 minutes of cognitive recovery time. That's the research. Most founders are switching tasks every 11 minutes, which means they never actually reach deep focus. But here's the thing that nobody tells you. This isn't a willpower problem, it's a systems problem. You can't out-discipline a poorly designed environment. The solution isn't really to try harder, it's actually 3 simple systems that work together like a triangle: clarity, calendar, and environment. If you master these 3, you'll reclaim 10 plus focused hours every week. So let me show you exactly how this triangle works, starting with the foundation. Number 1, clarity. The first side of our triangle is clarity, knowing exactly what deserves your attention and what doesn't. Because without this, you're just a productivity machine churning through random tasks. Now, you need one clear objective that's tied directly to revenue or risk reduction. I learned this during my PhD. Most PhD students, they write a thesis this thick that only 4 people will read: their mother, their supervisor, and 2 reviewers. Probably not even their mother, to be honest. But I was lucky. I could do a PhD by publication instead of writing this giant thesis. And that meant 4 specific papers that thousands of people would actually read and some would cite. So those 4 papers became my thesis. Meanwhile, other students had no clue. I remember asking one student how her PhD was going, and she broke down crying. She said, don't ask me about the PhD, it's terrible. This is total clarity versus total confusion. She was spinning her wheels, stressed out, getting nowhere, watching videos about writing instead of actually writing. Now, I was calm, focused, I was making progress. We had the same program, we had the same resources, but we had completely different outcomes. And most founders are like that crying student. They think they have clarity, but really they have a list of 30 priorities, which means 0 priorities, if you think about it. Because when everything is important, then nothing really is important. So I ask founders, I say, what is your single most important objective this quarter? And they start listing projects, features, meetings, whatever, but nothing really tied to actual business outcomes. And this is why you feel busy but not productive. You're working hard on the wrong things. Every email, every meeting, every quick favor you do for someone else, it pulls you away from what actually moves the needle. And without these clear objectives, you can't say no to anything else because you don't know what you're saying yes to, and you end up being reactive instead of strategic. But when you have crystal clear quarterly, monthly, weekly, even daily objectives, every decision becomes simple. Does this move me toward my objective or away from it? You now have a filter for your entire day, week, month, etc. But clarity alone isn't enough. You need to protect time to work on what matters. So the second side of the focus triangle is your calendar. This becomes your shield against other people's priorities. Most founders let everyone else fill their calendar with meetings and calls. But your calendar should protect your most important work, not scatter it. Right now, your calendar probably looks like chaos. meetings everywhere with no logic. You try to squeeze real work into the gaps between calls, but this is really backwards and it's killing your productivity. I remember I was working with Graham. He's a founder who once had a productivity system, but he slipped back into old habits. Now, when I started coaching him, everything important was floating in his head with no strategy when to tackle what, right? He had to-do lists, but he never really assigned tasks to specific time slot on his calendar. And without this time allocation, Graham, he stayed reactive, always putting out fires instead of building his business. And when you're available all day, you're useful to no one. You end up in shallow work mode all day, responding, reacting, but never really creating anything meaningful. So I taught Graham a simple system. Every evening, he becomes the evening executive. He plans tomorrow today, deciding what exactly goes where on the calendar. And then the next day, he puts on a different hat. He's not the executive anymore. He switches the hat to worker Graham. And he just execute what the boss told him to do. There's no second guessing. Should I do this? Should I do that? No, there's the calendar block. This is what I told myself to do. This is what I'll do. Period. And here's what takes that to the next level. And I learned this from Alex Hormozi about a year ago, and it's changed everything about how I structure my days. Batch your meetings, all of them, at the end of the day. For example, if your workday finishes at 5 p.m., then suggest that the meeting starts at 4 p.m. If that slot is taken, then suggest 3 p.m., etc., etc. And you keep working backwards, so you keep your mornings completely free from deep work when your brain is fresh. Another thing is to batch your communications, is to check email a couple times a day, not every 10 minutes like everyone else is doing, and to add a slot to your calendar where you clear your messages. Remember, 10 texts or emails responded to once an hour zaps your attention far more than 100 texts or email responded to in one batch. And people will recalibrate their expectations around your response time. Now, the thing is, even perfect time blocks won't help if your environment is sabotaging you. The third side to banish distraction is environment. And this is probably the most powerful lever of all. Your environment dictates your behavior more than your willpower ever will. Most people try to change through pure discipline, while their environment is working against them. Now, last year, my jiu-jitsu gym moved from 10 minutes away to 25 minutes away, and they stopped doing the morning classes that I was doing. So just those two things, that extra friction, and suddenly I went from training 4 days a week to training twice a week. The environment changed, and therefore my behavior changed. So a couple months ago, I found a new gym, 5 minutes from home, with morning classes, and I'm back to training 4 days a week. It's the same activity. I have the same goals, but have a different environment, completely different outcome. And this is the power of environment. It shapes what you do without you even realizing it often. Your physical and your digital environments are doing the same thing to your focus right now. Most founders, they have their phone buzzing, their Slack pinging, their WhatsApp pinging, 15 browser tabs open, and they wonder why they can't think clearly. Now, here's how to fix that. First, notifications. And I know you've heard this a million times, but look at your phone right now. You see those red dots? That's your problem. Every badge, every ping, every buzz is training your brain to be reactive instead of proactive. So just go into your settings, turn off everything except calls from your emergency context. Yes, everything. WhatsApp, email, Slack, Instagram, all of it. When it comes to focus, no news is good news. The second is, remember the communication windows I recommended you to set up in your calendar? Here's how to make them work. When you have an email, just close your email tab completely when you're not in a scheduled email or communication block. Don't leave it open just in case, because the temptation will kill your focus. And only open the email during those 2 or whatever daily slots you have calendared. And the same with messaging apps. Close them outside of your batching windows. The third thing is to use website blockers during your deep work sessions. Tools like Newsfeed Eradicator or Cold Turkey make it impossible to access distracting sites during certain time blocks. And here you're not relying on willpower anymore. You're making distraction physically harder than focus. So if you block social media, news sites, whatever pulls you away during work hours, that's what you want to do. When you implement these environment tweaks, these notifications turning off, turning on the blockers, you actually remove friction from focus and you add friction to distraction. And suddenly deep work becomes the easy choice, not the hard one. Now I've got a bonus for you. It's actually the thing that underpins this entire triangle system. Without understanding this, everything I just taught you breaks down. In 1938, a sleep researcher named Nathaniel Kleitman, he made a discovery that should have changed how we work forever. Kleitman lived in a cave for a month. He stayed awake for 180 hours straight, all to understand human performance. Now, what he found is that your brain operates on 90-minute cycles, not just when you sleep, all the time. He called it the basic rest activity cycle. And your brain has peaks and valleys throughout the day, right? As predictable as the tide. And here's what that means. Right now, some of you are in a peak. Your brain is firing. You're absorbing everything that I'm telling you. Others are in a valley and you're fighting to stay focused. Maybe you're checking your messages while watching this video, wondering when this will end. And that's not a character flaw. It's just biology. And fighting it is like trying to stop breathing. You can do it for a while, but eventually biology wins. And then take Anders Ericsson. He studied world-class violinists. And you know what separated the best from just the good? The elite, they practiced in 90-minute bursts, 3 sessions a day. Then they stopped. They also slept an hour or more per night, and they took afternoon naps. Now, most founders, they try to power through 8-hour days of focus, but that's like trying to sprint a marathon. You burn out, you make mistakes, and you wonder why you feel exhausted at the end of the race. But when you align your deep work blocks with these 90-minute cycles, you work with your biology instead of against it. And that's why the triangle works. Clarity for 90 minutes, protected by your calendar, in the right environment. Now you just learned the triangle system that gives you 10 plus focused hours every week while your competitors stay scattered. But knowing it isn't enough. Most people will watch this and think, yeah, that's great, but then they don't do anything. So don't be most people. I've taken everything from this video and built an AI tool that implements this exact system, and it finds your biggest time wasters in 7 minutes and saves you at least 7 hours every week. That's time for your family, time for your health, maybe even some fun. And this is the exact systems I use with high performance coaching clients, but now in AI form. Matt, for example, he freed up 7 hours weekly in just 6 weeks. Gert, he saved multiple hours daily without burning out. Shuktika, she calls it a clear tool for staying on track when distractions arise. Now the link's in the description, and you can get the AI focused GPT and stop giving your competitors the advantage while you stay scattered. Because busy doesn't build businesses, focus does. And if you like this video, then subscribe for more systems that work with your brain, not against it.